In the previous video, we looked at a lot of different variables that distinguish one climate from another. So in this video, we're going to take all those variables and use them to classify one climate and distinguish it from another climate. This has been done since the ancient Greeks. They talked about tropical climates. They talked about temperate climates, about polar climates. They've known about a fair amount of these things. But that was it. They just talked about those three: tropical, temperate, and polar climates. And that type of system was used for years. After a while, a German by the name of Valdemar Köppen, forgive me for my German, developed an interesting way to distinguish one climate from another. Now you have to remember, in the time of the ancient Greeks and in the early days of science, you don't have satellites, you don't have unified meteorological organizations that coordinate on weather measurements. You don't have a lot of those things. A lot of what made it makes it easy for us to classify climates from each other today. Köppen did not have data to say this is this climate and this is that climate. But he did have nature's own instruments, and that is vegetation. The vegetation that grows in an area will depend on the amount of sunlight it gets, on the amount of precipitation it gets, on the type of soil, so on. And so Köppen went around and looked at the different vegetations and basic understandings of the area, talking to the people, so on, to predict different climate types. And he separated the world into 5 different climates, plus this extra highland climate. He has this extra highland climate because mountain ranges can consist of multiple climates in one small area. And so he just gave them their own category because they're their own thing. So here are his basic climate types. You have tropical climates, you have dry climates, those would be our deserts. You have moist climates with mild winters, moist climates with severe winters, and polar climates. Those are your 5 main climates right here. And then you have your highland or mountain regions after that. And you can see all of these, how he classified them across the world. And here's a good example of how highland climates can vary so quickly. You can have an area here that might be a moist, mild winter type of climate. And then you go up a little ways, then you get into this chaparral and mixed conifer forest regions. Very likely you'd have a moist but severe winter climate. Then by the time you reach the peak, the ice caps, you are in a polar climate. So you see just within 160 kilometers, you've experienced 3 different major climate types. And so that's why Köppen just left a general mountain or highland climate. Now, often the Köppen system was criticized because it has very sharp boundaries and they don't really match natural boundaries. For example, you're in Africa, you're in the Sahara Desert and you're driving south, and then all of a sudden you hit a borderland and all of a sudden you're in the middle of a tropical rainforest. Is that really what happens? No. You don't go straight from a desert to a tropical rainforest. There is a gradual transition from one climate to another. And so that's what a lot of people argued with Köppen, is we don't have sharp transitions. We have more gradual transitions, and our climate classifications need to reflect that. So what we use today is what's called the modified Köppen system. We use the same 5 general groups, but each group is separated into multiple subgroups. Again, here are your main 5 groups: tropical, dry, moist climate with mild winter, moist climate with severe winter, and polar climates. Or we can classify them as Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, and Group E. And then you have Group H, which is your highland climates. And now this is more what our current modified Köppen system looks like, where all of these green shades would be Group A, yellow shades would be Group B, orange shades would be Group C, blue would be Group D, and then purple or white would be Group E. This is the Western Hemisphere, and this would be a good look at the Eastern Hemisphere. In the next few videos, we'll do some quick looks at different types of subgroups within each climate.